G'day community, Lekdog here with my team reveal for 2022. Recording this on the 14th of the 3rd, it's 3:41 PM and my team is likely to change. It's likely to change from this, but I thought I'd do it this way as a video rather than an article. One, don't have a whole heap of time to put together an article over the next couple of days before the season starts. And number two, I just wanted to speak through sort of the development of the team over the pre-season prior to really the last sort of 5 days. I had locked in a 4 premium midfield setup, 4 premiums, 4 players over 600k in the midfield. But as we approach round 1, I have to take the rookies where they fall, and at the moment for me that is, and by rookies I mean basically anyone under 250 grand, that is falling for me in the midfield and the forward line, which has changed my structure in the midfield. I've got one less primo now than I was planning to, but it's allowed me to upgrade in a couple of other areas. The first thing I wanted to do is have a quick look at this article I did a little while ago, the KFC 11 Supercoach commandments. Pick the best rookies, pick the expensive rookies this year. That essentially means that I'm doing that. I'm picking the rookies. Avoid interrupted preseason. Another one which I think I've done successfully. If there has been too many knocks on some of the players I've selected, I've just not been across it. I think I've successfully avoided interrupted preseasons. Don't pod for pod's sake. Now, I haven't stuck to this. There is a player in my team who I've essentially picked over some other options because of his low ownership and potential upside. And I don't want to have a completely boring team, even though I say here it's okay to be a cookie cutter. It is, it absolutely is. And until 5 days ago, my team was looking pretty standard for what everyone else was showing. And in the comments or the post accompanying this video, I actually am going to drop in my pre-pivot team and my current team, and just remember that this isn't locked in. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. I don't want to change it. I'm going to change it. Prioritize value over breakout potential. For the most part, I've done this in my side. There's one guy that I think is a breakout contender in my team that probably doesn't present value. I think everyone else presents value. And most of them have a history of scoring or a void of significance in their side. Plan for the worst. Now, I actually haven't. I have to a degree. I've tried to avoid picking too many premiums from the same team. I've tried to avoid picking too many potential mid-prices, breakouts from the same team. Planning for the buys is tough, because no matter how I do this team, I come back to the same backline every time, basically. And it's not good for the buys. So I'm just going to have to trade around that moving forward. Loophole, loophole, loophole. We all know that. Manage your trades. Don't waste our trade boosts. Change places. DPPs are great. And enjoy the ride. And that's what I'm trying to do this preseason, is enjoy the ride. So let's get to the team selection here, as I just bring up my teams over here. So there is only, how many guys is there? I've just got on my other screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 players. 6 players if you count Stephen Lekdog, that I actually have locked into my team since day one and they haven't moved at all. And these guys are Jordan Ridley at D1, 537k. I don't want to spend more than 550k. Listeners of the pods know this. On a defender, I think Jordan Ridley is going to be helped by some of the players that Essendon bought in the off-season. You can listen to their signings and trades and blah, blah, blah. We did podcasts when it happened. It's all explained why I think Ridley's a good pick over the last few months. I just think he's underpriced at his current price, and his role is going to be really strong for us. And hey, if he averages 100, sick. That's great. Jaden Short hasn't left my side since the pre-season of last year. So another guy that I just really like. I think he's a chance to be the number 1 defender this year. I think that's a real possibility. So he kind of picks himself. Next one, was a toss-up. I did have Caleb... I'll just talk about the locks, the absolute locks I have, and then we'll fill the rest of the team. So these are the two locks I have in defence. Here it's easy. For me, it's Jack McRae, Clayton Oliver. We spoke to Clayton Oliver the other day at the Supercoach launch. You can listen to that podcast. All the details are around on the site. You'll find it. There's a Supercoach resources tool. In the ruck, my lock was Brodie Grundy. And in the forward line, my lock was Stephen Ginnigalog. So this is the bare bones of my team. This is what I know I want to select with 2 days before the round starts. So now we'll go into who else is in the lineup. So in defence, next up is Lachie Whitfield. He's a super hugely popular pick. His scoring potential is massive. There is question marks over his consistency in terms of his body. But I think at 502k, if you get a guy that can average 105 plus, you pick him. And then next is this guy who made his way into my team after the St Kilda game against the Blues. Against the Blues. St Kilda plays the Blues. He plays for the Blues. Couple of things here. DPP. He's defensive mid eligible. He's sub 400k. And the role's there, right? We've seen Ed Curnow over the years be able to average 100 plus at Carlton. George Hewitt is going to take that role and potentially is even a better player with more upside. I don't know if he's a keeper. I think he has scope to average 100 for the year. I think if when Sam Walsh comes back on that side, it's Matthew Kennedy that gets a bit of a points reduction. I think Hewitt's relatively safe, and I think he makes Cripps a better player as well. So I think he's going to be in that midfield mix all year long. I think he legitimately could average 100, and if he does, he's obviously a keeper. If he averages less than 100, he is an underpriced player who has the potential to sit at D6 throughout the rest of the year, maybe fall onto the bench, maybe get upgraded later on. But I think he's just a solid value prospect at this stage. Now, the rookies obviously are still a bit up in the air. I will have some cash and some flexibility here to upgrade these. At the moment, I don't have Josh Gibcus in my team. I just think his scoring profile is too low. Obviously, when it comes down to it, he may end up in this team purely because of our lack of other options. Where is he? Where's Paddy McCartan? Surely he's more picked than this. Alright, we're just going to have to go McCartan. So Paddy McCartan goes in here. I think that's obvious one. He's got the role. Who knows about this? Maybe he averages 60. Not really sure what he'll actually produce, but he's got the role and he's got the job security. Obviously, concussion issues are always a concern, but I think for the moment, happy to sit him in there. DeConning, once again, we don't really know about these bench guys at this stage. And I've got Mitch Cox here, and there's a bit of flexibility. As I said, there is a bit of flex in this team at the end when you see it for rookies to be upgraded, downgraded, and moved around to improve this bench. But at the moment, that's where we're looking at, and I'm trying not to think about it too much. In the midfield now, I really actually didn't want to pick Lachie Neale, but he's in the team. I think he showed probably enough in the preseason to warrant selection. We know what he's done in the past. Last year, he still averaged 100. It's not quite good enough for a guy of this caliber, so I expect him to improve his scoring again. So Lachie Neale comes into that side, and given 5 days ago I had 600k premiums in this midfield, and Lachie Neale was at M5, I'm feeling a little exposed, but we can continue to work through it. Now, this one I really battled with this, and it's Matt Rowell, and I don't love it because I don't think the body of work's there, but 342k, it's hard to ignore what he did in the preseason. We've got an article that went up today comparing Matt Rowell to Jared Berry, and the projections, if you trust the numbers and we trust that his body can stay fit this year, the numbers say that he should average 100. And at 300 and whatever it is, 40 to 42k, an average of 100 is a good return. And this year I'm just looking to get points on field. So Matt Rowell's in, and I don't feel super comfortable about it. I actually feel a bit more comfortable about this. And once again, another injury concerns. So this might all blow up in my face, but I think this is the year to take the risks on these mid prices. Jared Berry at M5, for all the reasons that everyone else is selecting him, has a history of scoring, has a history of being able to produce, and the question mark really is that injury. But he looked solid in the preseason, and at his price, I'm hoping by the time, if he breaks down, we'll have some rookies to downgrade. Horne-Francis and Dacos are in for job security reasons more than anything. Dacos should be able to score pretty well behind the ball, rotating into the midfield, and Horne-Francis will probably play majority forward. He might actually be overpriced for what he produces, but this is a guy that I'm pretty confident, we're going to get 22 games out of this year. So happy to have him in the team. The next one, obviously, is Josh Ward, who we expect to see a lot of. We've got Stevens, who, considering what we think he's going to output, is underpriced. We've got O'Driscoll. Now, I don't think O'Driscoll's going to play, so him and Cox are probably going to change. But for the moment, we'll chuck him there. And then we've got Connor McDonald. So I think this is a fairly standard bench. There are some other options which we can consider. We got Naish. We got a bunch of guys. We got Davies from Gold Coast. There's a few guys we can look at. At the moment, this is what I'm sticking with. Now the rucks, I changed my ruck. There was one guy who, prior to the Carlton game, wasn't in my team, and that was Max Gawn. And I still really want to select Nick Naitanui over Max Gawn. I really, really want to make that selection. But at the moment, I don't need that 30k. At the moment, I don't need that 30k, so Max Gawn takes the spot. He looks really bloody good against the Blues. We know what he's capable of. We know he's a captain-worthy scorer. I think he's a bit slightly more trustworthy than Sean Darcy, who, he plays through injury, which is great, but he does sustain them sometimes. But I still really, really think Nick Nat and Brody Grundy are R1 and R2 come the end of the year for total points. But it's a big zag for 30k. And at the moment, I've just not been able to bring myself to do it. Then obviously we've got Jack Hayes on the bench, and then we can do the same here. We can go Cox on the bench. Actually, I don't even have Cox in my team. We'll chuck him in there for the meantime anyway. No, we won't. We'll leave him out because he's not in that team. All right, forward line. Another guy that I was really wanting to zag and not select was this man, Josh Dunkley. 558k is a lot to spend on a forward and a lot to spend on a guy that has had multiple injuries over the last couple of years. But you see his ceiling, and it looks like the Bevo salad, God, touch wood, we'll see Josh Dunkley playing in the midfield. And if Josh Dunkley's playing in the midfield, Josh Dunkley's scoring. So we pick him. We pick him based on that. I don't need to sell him. I have a gut feeling that it's not a good pick. My initial team had like Tom Hawkins in it, F1, but I digress. We go Dunkley. Now this one everyone has. Zach Butters. I think the upside's worth it for the potential risk. 443k. Hey, if he averages 85 all year, guess what? He's still probably going to be one of the top forwards. So happy to take this risk. And then this is the guy that I really, really wanted to find a spot for in my team. And it's essentially having Matt Rowell and Lachie Neale instead of two premium 600k midfielders allows me to put Taron Thomas into my team. Now, he averaged like 106 on the run home last year, had a big preseason playing forward. This is a breakout potential guy, which I don't love picking just because he's potentially going to break out, but there's just something in my gut that says that he's going to be a really good selection this year, and he's going to be a better selection than Zach Butters. That's what I feel, and I couldn't split them, so I found a way to put them both in my team. And you know what? I like watching them as well as players, so that makes it way more fun. Other guys that were in contention were like a Zach Bailey, and I love Zach Bailey, but I just didn't want to have too many more Brisbane Lion players in this side, which is why there's not going to be a Cam Rayner in this team, who was in my team all pre-season, and instead we're going to see this man, Jade Gresham, who at 300k, I think his floor is probably an 80. Craig, who wrote for the website about the St Kilda preview, said the same. If he can average 80 as a forward, barely get midfield time, sure. Body again, question marks over the body. A lot of question marks over the bodies of these guys, but I think most of them had really healthy pre-seasons. If you can average 80 as a forward, it's Lincoln McCarthy areas, baby. Lincoln McCarthy, top 20 scorer in 2021. For the forward line, Jade Gresham's in. There's some upside there. And he's at 300k. If after 2 weeks it looks like shit, I can corrective trade him down to any number of guys. This one's for Dill. I watching this man at the practice matches, I saw it, but I didn't believe it. I see it, but I don't believe it. And I'm willing to ride the Mitch McGovern train until round 3 when he gets injured, when he has a soft tissue injury. But there's a few things at play here. 1, contract year. 2, new role, void of significance. 3, playing to the strengths of him as a player down back in that intercept role. It can be a lucrative role in terms of scoring. And in 6 weeks, he becomes a defence forward swing option. If he's still in the side, if he's still healthy, that's flexibility to go with a guy like Cunning or Paddy McCartan. A risk, other guys around this price that you could look at. There's Davies, who's midfield. There's Will Brodie, and I just can't bring myself to select Will Brodie. I worry about a guy. I know he played there in the midfield in the preseason. I know he looked really good, but I just no Fife in the side, and I think his CBA's drop in the real thing, and I think, he was a salary dump. They didn't really want him that much, and I know in hindsight they can say that, no, it's great and he fills a role and Adam Cho's gone, but he was a salary dump. He got given to them by Gold Coast, so I just have some question marks there. So that's why at the moment it's Mitch McGovern, which I'm, putting my faith in Mitch McGovern, which is crazy. Then we got Josh Rochelle, and then we have Nick Martin with 15 grand left over. I like the idea of having Rochelle on the bench just because I think he's going to be similar to Rowe last year, where, he goes 100, 40, 100, 50, 70. I just think there's going to be a fair bit of inconsistency there. Nick Martin on the bench. The room for flex in this side, before I lock things away for the start of the round, for the start of Supercoach, Gawn to Nick Nat is 30k that I like having sitting there. Gresham to a Brodie or to another 200k player, or potentially a rookie if they pop up, is 50 to 100k. I don't have Naish in this side. Gresham could become Naish. Gresham's job security is clearly more secure. And then room to flex upwards, Josh Sin, Cox, O'Driscoll. We don't know where these guys are going, but I think structurally I've ended up in a place where I'm reasonably happy with this side. Another guy in defence that might get bought in at the expense of, say, Gresham down to a Naish could be a Chapman. But at this stage, in terms of what the team is, Ridley, Short, Whitfield are keepers. McRae, Oliver, Neal are keepers. 6 keepers so far. 7, 8 in the ruck. 9, 10, Canigliog, 11, 12. I'm banking on Butters and Thomas being keepers. And then that's 12 keepers with Hewitt, Rowell, in my opinion, with Hewitt, Rowell, Berry, and Gresham, who all have upside to be really solid scorers. And what I'm hoping for is not so much that everyone to go bang and increase their averages by 10, 20 points. It's all these guys just to play. If they can play and score the floor of what I think they can score, I think it's a solid base for a side. Particularly in a year where we don't have a shitload of rookies to pick from at this stage. So that's my long-winded team reveal. It's not the most exciting team reveal in the world. If you want to compete against it, if you want to get a few easy wins, you can add me in your leagues as an expert. I think there's just a button when you're setting up the league. If you've got a gap to add an expert, you can pick me, give you easy wins. If you want to increase your overall weekly score for your league rank, then maybe don't add me because I'll probably struggle a little bit to score. But hey, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. And the question mark, which we won't know until the end, is have I made the right call flexing out, changing my structure with 5 days to go and moving out Steele and Miller for Rowell, Neil, Taron Thomas, and upgrades, etc., etc. And the maths probably doesn't work in my favour, but I should just say that the reason I was okay with moving those 600k players out in the end was because my four original locks in the midfield were McRae, Oliver, Tom Mitchell, and Sam Walsh. Sam Walsh goes down with injury, so I bring in the next on my tier list, which was Rory Laird, who went down with injury. Then we found out that Tom Mitchell was injured, so I'm looking at Miller and I'm looking at Steele, and I know they're really good, but they just weren't in my plans really at any point of the season, of the preseason. So I was comfortable with moving on from them. The only guy that I would love to fit in, that I would really love to fit in, other than Nick Naitanui, is Zach Merritt. I really, really, really want to get Zach Merritt in, but I like where the team's at right now. So here we are with 2 days, 3 hours and 7 minutes to go at time of recording. This is Lekdog's Puppies. I'd love to know what you think. I know everyone's going to say my midfield's too shallow, and I know everyone's going to say that having Taron Thomas and Zach Butters and Jade Gresham is probably not great. But here we are, baby. I've put them out for you. Let me know as I panic and try to stop the recording.